Welcome back everyone to Racing Reviews and welcome back to Formula 1 2021 here for your preview for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, or as it's more commonly known, the Imola Grand Prix for round 2 of the 2021 season of our 23 race calendar. Things are pretty packed this year, and as you can see on our 23 race provisional calendar, there are so many countries to go to, so many venues to get through. This weekend, we return to Imola for the second time in 2 years, then to Portimao in Portugal, and then our more traditional circuits, Spain, Monaco, Baku and Canada, a track which we're going to be talking about in a little bit more detail later on in the newsroom. Plenty more circuits, plenty more to look forward to in 2021, and if the last race is anything to go by, we are in for an absolute treat this weekend. And just in case you missed it or need a refresher, here is your result from last time out. Hamilton versus Verstappen, the big storyline on Saturday in qualifying. It was Verstappen with the first punch of the season, P1 for the Dutchman, Hamilton and Bottas 2 and 3. But come race day, the two giants of Formula 1 battled it out to the wire. Track limits got involved. We all enjoy track limits, another story we'll talk about a little bit later on in the newsroom, but it was Hamilton who prevailed with a few laps to go, repassing Verstappen when Verstappen let him through, which was very kind of him. Max did finish P2, Bottas rounded out your top 3. Driver of the day, I gave it to Lando Norris. Sergio Perez was the official driver of the day, and race rating I gave an 8, but very, very close to a 9 out of 10. An incredible way to start the season, but last time we visited Imola, things a little bit quieter for our first return in a very, very long time. A great drive from Danny Kvyat got my driver of the day. It was Valtteri Bottas on pole position, but a storyline we were all too familiar with last season. Our victor, Lewis Hamilton, Bottas P2, Mercedes claiming their 7th consecutive Constructors title, but P3 saw the return of the shoey, with Daniel Ricciardo in fine form. P3 for the Aussie driver. Could he do the same for McLaren this weekend? Unlikely, but if he does get there, we're definitely in store for a great race. Your driver standings after round 1 then look a little bit like this, with Hamilton leading the way, Verstappen and Bottas your top 3. My driver of the day, Lando Norris P4, Perez scoring points on debut for Red Bull. A great drive for Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz saw the two Ferraris score points in the first race of the season, Ricciardo splitting the two of them in 7th place. Japanese rookie sensation Yuki Tsunoda scored on debut. He's in 9th, with Lance Stroll rounding out your top 10. A difficult rate for many of the drivers in our bottom half, but not a bad one for 11th and 12th. The two Alfa Romeo drivers, Raikkonen and Giovinazzi, just missing out on points. Ocon is 13th, George Russell is 14th. A very difficult opening weekend for Vettel and debutant Mick Schumacher in 15th and 16th. Gasly, Latifi, Alonso and Nikita Mazepin round out your field. And in the Constructors, Mercedes lead quite comfortably over Red Bull Racing, a team that will want to claw that back very, very quickly this weekend. It's McLaren versus Ferrari, as it seems at the moment, in that battle for best of the rest, but keep your eye out for AlphaTauri this weekend. Aston Martin P6, and 4 teams yet to score: Alfa Romeo, Alpine, Williams and Haas. And for those teams and drivers that struggled to get used to the tyres in race 1, well, I've got some bad news for you. They're the exact same this weekend. C2, C3 and C4 the soft is the Pirelli range for this weekend. Of course, your usual reminder, 1 mandatory pit stop required for each team during the Grand Prix, but what we did see last time out was a 2-stop strategy coming into play in Bahrain. There's potential for that at Imola, definitely if we get a late safety car similar to what we saw last season, but a 1-stop is expected, with those that are trying to push and go a little bit more aggressive, trying to aim for the 2-stop. Your weather, before we jump into your hot lap, there's been lots of stories about rain clouds in the area, but what I can tell you is on every single day over the weekend, according to our source AccuWeather, we have a 25% chance of rain, which you ask the majority of Formula 1 fans means it's going to rain, right? We're going to see torrential conditions, surely. No, it's a very small chance. but there is a chance nonetheless. Colder on Sunday than it is to Friday and Saturday, but mixed conditions could see a pretty awesome race coming our way. Right then, before we jump into predictions and the newsroom, our packed newsroom for this weekend, let's have a look at your lap and hot lap for the 2021 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at this legendary circuit at Imola. Welcome everyone to your hot lap here in Imola, on board with Lucas Di Grassi's Audi from Formula E on Project Cars 3, down towards the braking zone of Turn 1 and very quickly into the chicane of Turn 2. Turn 3 trying to get as much speed as you can and bring it as wide as you can on exit, staying on this right hand side of the circuit. 4 and 5, almost a carbon copy of 1 and 2, a little bit loosey-goosey on entry, nice and smooth on exit, ending Sector 1 of this circuit. Nice and tight on the hairpin of Turn 6 as we start charging up the hill now of this quite mildly undulating circuit. It's not too obvious on the camera and TV screen, but when you're in the position of the driver, crikey, Sector 2 in particular, all over the place, things you love to see. This nice and narrow circuit doesn't present many opportunities for overtaking, but as we end Sector 2, start charging up the hill, so careful to not run out wide over that white line. Cracking down on track limits is a big story for this weekend. Sector 2 done. Only 4 more corners to go. Very quickly through 2 there. The final chicane of the lap. A couple of kinks to go. Something to keep an eye on over the weekend is how much the drivers decide to use these kinks, mainly for overtaking, but more so to position their car for DRS. Through the penultimate corner, trying to again not go too wide over that white line. Through the final corner, crucial to get a great exit. DRS bang is on in effect as we run towards the line, slowly bending to the right as close to the wall as you possibly can to complete your lap here in Imola. Heading on over then to the newsroom. So many stories to get through over the last 3 weeks, but I've picked out my 3 favourites to go through with you today. But if you want any more news, any more details, I share all of them over on Twitter. But your first story this week is the Hulkenback Part 3. Hulking Green, as we have called it, as Nico Hulkenberg returns to his former team, formerly known as Force India, now Aston Martin. He's not returning for a full drive, however he is coming back for a reserve role in 2021. Last year he performed in 3 race weekends, the British Grand Prix 70th Anniversary Grand Prix and Eiffel Grand Prix in Germany for the team, and if for whatever reason Lance Stroll or Sebastian Vettel are unable to race this year, the Hulk will step in as reserve driver and race driver for Aston Martin. We've seen more changes in Melbourne for this year's Grand Prix, several changes around the circuit. I've popped up the graphic on screen to try and give you a better idea of where these changes are coming, all of them in red, some of them a little bit easier to tell than others, with turns 3 and 4 and 6 and 7 having slight variation changes on the angle of the corner, whereas 9 and 10 and 13 and 14 very blatantly are changing the circuit. And in the case of corner number 9, it's going all together, with 8 now going straight through to 10, with braking opportunities from turn 5 all the way through to turn 11 practically non-existent. This is going to change up the racing in Melbourne. Will it be for the better? We're going to have to wait and see. And our final bit of news for today, once again focusing on the calendar, however this time not so good news, with the Canadian Grand Prix very much in doubt for going ahead in 2021. As of recording, there is nothing official as of yet, especially from Formula 1, who are being very quiet on the situation. However, multiple stories within Canada, within Montreal, reporting that the race will not go ahead even without fans. It is not safe enough to hold a Grand Prix, which certainly, from a Formula 1 perspective, is disappointing. Awesome fans in Canada, a brilliant circuit to race at, but right now, there are some things that are just a little bit more important than racing, Safety comes first, and if we don't get racing in Canada, that is the right decision from Formula 1. Keep an eye out for official confirmation from F1 over the next 24 hours, I would expect. But for now, it's looking very unlikely the Grand Prix will go ahead. And we'll leave the newsroom there. Let's move on to something a little bit brighter, because as you all know, it's time for my favourite part of the weekend. It's time for some predictions. Yes, I want to know your predictions in the comments section down below, and the 3 favourites will be featured in tomorrow's practice report. I will show you your grid to follow in a moment's time, but my predictions look a little bit like this. With Verstappen on pole, with Sergio Perez alongside him, and Lewis Hamilton rounding out the top 3, I'm expecting fireworks on our return to Imola. So much so, as you can see my top 5, we're missing a few big hitters. Bit of contact, bit of drama in the opening laps. Would be pretty good, wouldn't it? Sergio Perez, I've gone with for my victor in Sunday's Grand Prix, with Bottas P2, Pierre Gasly redemption from last year's race P3, Norris 4, and Yuki Tsunoda, another great race, in P5. But of course, I want to know your predictions, and so in the comment section down below, I want to know the following. In qualifying, who will be on pole? Who will share the front row? And who will be the biggest shock? Schumacher Q2? Possibly. Mazepin not spinning? Unlikely. And in the race, I want to know who will be victorious, which other 2 drivers will be on the podium. First DNF, best overtake, so I want to know which driver will overtake another driver, and of course the big one, who will be the driver of the day. Leave your answers in the comment section down below, and once again the top 3 voted will be featured in tomorrow's video. And before we go, Fantasy League time. I can tell you now, ladies and gents, I had a great week last time out. I currently sit in 216th place in our league. Code is on screen if you want to join the Racing Reviews League. It's also in the description. A little bit easier then to copy and paste in. 184 points, almost 2,000 of you are in the league. I'm very, very happy with this. No mega driver just yet. I'm waiting for that one. But Hamilton, Norris and Russell, the 3 British boys in my team, with the 2 AlphaTauris joining them, Red Bull as the team. Surely we're going to do great things this weekend. And if you want to know when is everything happening this weekend, screenshot time at the ready, as your schedule looks like this. No Formula 2, no Formula 3, no W Series this weekend. Just Formula 1 goodness. Practice 1 and Practice 2 on Friday, 10 o'clock and 1:30 in the afternoon. Both sessions, remember, for this season, an hour long. On Saturday, another hour session of practice in the morning at 10, qualifying at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And on Sunday, the main event, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, I love saying that, here in Imola, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that is it from me for your preview. I'll be back tomorrow with your practice report. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. If you are new, feel free to subscribe. And I hope to see you all in the next one.